Hey, everybody, welcome back. Happy Skews Day to you. Today is February 1st, 2022. I'm Trey Crowder, and that's Mark Agee. What's up, Mark?
What's up, Trey? How you doing today, bud?
All right.
Are you so I spent the day thinking about geography, specifically how the Super Bowl is going to be here in 2 weeks, and that's probably going to fuck our lives up. But
Yeah.
also, truckers in Canada. Have you been following the Canadian trucker caravan?
Just a little bit. I know it seems like truckers in Canada are maybe more like truckers in America than I realized, or at least these truckers are. Look, listen, hashtag not all truckers. I'm aware. My grandpa was a trucker. But these truckers, yeah, they seem to be on some shit.
Yeah, I mean,
Not just me.
my dad was a long haul trucker, and their culture seems to mostly revolve around amphetamines and
Yeah.
knowing every interstate in the country. But
Yeah. And don't forget
so
whores. Sorry.
yeah, lot lizards, baby.
Lot lizards. Yeah. Sorry, everybody.
Uh,
Go ahead, Mark.
having different families in four different towns. That's part of the culture too.
Yeah.
So, but Canadian trucker. First of all, you say not all truckers. The Canadian trucker caravan is overwhelmingly not truckers. So I want to say
Yeah.
that off the top. So what happened was this trucker alliance or whatever was sort of protesting the vaccine mandates to start with. They eventually pulled out of this because this got fucking insane because a bunch of people that weren't them took up their cause. Now, any sort of union or trade alliance is going to resist government mandates for fairly obvious reasons. And I'm not totally unsympathetic to trying to protect your workforce. Like, if you're going to collectively bargain something, give us something for it. Then we'll do it, right?
Yeah.
But like 90% of Canadian cross-border truckers, that's who mostly we're talking about here, are vaccinated. So we're talking about like the 10% holdouts. And so they decided to organize this protest where a bunch of truckers are going to drive to Ottawa, the nation's capital. But then, like, a bunch of other people decided they were going to do it and join the truckers. So, like, a bunch of people, and like the original estimates from the people in the protest said that 100,000 truckers were coming to Iowa in like a long caravan.
Ottawa.
Yeah, Ottawa. Yeah. Um, so here's the thing. I don't have you a little bit of rough back of the envelope math. 100,000 truck caravan, if you're following at a safe distance, would last for a couple thousand miles, perhaps. This was not going to be that's ridiculous. There's not you'll be able to see
Right.
that from space, right?
Yeah.
So that didn't happen. This is mostly a couple hundred truck drivers and then a bunch of random make MCGAs. How do you pronounce it? Macagas.
Oh,
Uh,
right.
make
McCuggers. Yeah.
Canada a bunch of make Canada great again people joining in to blast their horns and essentially occupy the city of Ottawa, which isn't very big. So they've been able to totally take it over, be complete assholes. They were flying Nazi flags, Confederate flags, wearing
There you
Trump hats
go.
for some reason.
Yeah.
And tell the people about the sign you were telling me about.
So I saw a sign, one of them had it said 2022 is the new 1776 or something like that. And it's like you read that and it's
Yeah,
like, that's our, what is that? What does 1776 have to do with y'all? And it's like,
yeah,
we're clearly exporting a certain type of dumbassery around the globe. Like we're the number one exporter
uh-huh.
of that type of dipshit, I guess. Like it's just, we just send it
Yeah.
everywhere, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, especially because like Canada was invited to join us. The Canadian territorial colonies were invited to, uh, uh, join us in the American Revolution to cast off the Queen, and they were like, "No, thanks. We like the Queen, the King at the time." And we're like, "Okay, cool." So like they had their choice to join in our drunken whiskey revolt against King George. They decided not to. Now I guess they have fear of missing out. 250 years ago.
Yeah.
But so they couldn't get into restaurants because they have vaccine requirements. So instead, they harassed a soup kitchen to feed them. They like surrounded the place and made this organization that normally feeds homeless people make them give them fucking food, which is evil and crass. They tore up a war memorial to some like Canadian medical military hero. His name I can't remember. And also the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. They have one of those too. And so the trucker organization immediately that had originally planned the protest was like, "Fuck these people. We're not into this anymore." So they pulled out of the protest. But they're still there. They're just hanging around in Ottawa, and the police are saying nothing's gone wrong because when you're a right wing protester, you can do whatever the fuck you want apparently. So yeah, but the funny thing to come out of it, the Nazi pictures weren't all that hilarious, but um, a Skews viewer by the name of you want to try her name? it's
So
her, right?
on Twitter, she tagged us on this picture on Twitter. Safey Jane or Saphi Jane on Twitter tagged us in
Yeah,
this picture, which is pretty great. That's a Canada
yeah.
First hat with a very unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective, placed hoodie obscuring the top part. If you're only listening to us, it appears to say anal first. So the guy's got his priorities in line.
Yeah. The only way it could hit harder is the hoodie somehow covered the R in first too, so it just said anal fist. That would have really been made it better.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just want to say to our friends up north, y'all are no longer smarter and nicer than us. This pretty much ends that myth. So There we go.
All right. Well, as always, producer Matt is with us. This is Weekly Skews. I want to remind you real quick, if you're vaccinated and want to see me live, you can go to wellreadcomedy.com for tickets and whatnot. We'll be in Appleton, Wisconsin this here weekend. Hope to see y'all out there. Okay, on the show tonight, another week, another made-up and absurd conservative conspiracy theory. What is it this time? Well, apparently liberals are turning kids into cats out here. Dogs, too. Letting them eat from bowls, poop in boxes, putting hooves on their hands. It's wild. You name it, they're tore up about it. Also, the small-town Alabama police force with a revolutionary approach to generating revenue. Stealing from people. All right, maybe it's not all that revolutionary, but either way, they're doing it. We're going to talk about it. All that and more on tonight's Skews. First, as always, the Daily Dumbass. Matt, graphic, please. Tonight's DD is Bette Midler for insulting West Virginians, an action which prompted an immediate, concise, erudite, and appropriate response from the state's governor, Jim Justice, which you will see right here.
Be here. They told every bad joke in the world about us. And so from that standpoint, Baby Dog tells Bette Midler and all those out there, kiss her hiney.
Oh, we're butthole heavy on this episode. We're top loaded, front loaded with butthole stuff here at the Skews this week. We didn't plan that, but what are you going to do?
we know our lane, bud. So if you don't know, what Bette Midler did was after Joe Manchin refused to support the Build Back Better Act, she called West Virginians, quote, poor, illiterate, and strung out, which really only two of those are true, and you can pick which two depending on the day.
Right.
But I mean, we love you, West Virginia, which is why we're making fun of Bette Midler here. But Matt, throw up this still image is even better because the freeze, the face, like everything about this is really funny because you got a guy saying we're not dumb hillbillies,
right?
Whereas
here's my dog's butthole,
and this guy is smart, and he's wearing an ill-fitting suit, presenting his dog's butthole, arguing we're not weird hillbillies. I love it so much.
Well, dude, you throw down with West Virginians, you're gonna see some dogs' buttholes. That's just part of that's all in the game. Yeah, no, I'm not with what Bette Midler did because of the way she went about. Joe Manchin sucks, sure, and a lot of them do, but don't just call them all illiterate, strung out hillbillies or whatever. Again, I'm sure they would tell you, it's like, that's only like 2/3 of us or something. Like, a lot of us are cool, That's how I feel.
No, I mean, I feel like everybody I know from West Virginia would be like, that's not fair. I mean, I do got cousins.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But that guy, what's the governor's name? Jim Justice?
Yeah.
So we've talked about him before because he actually kind of hits for me because there's these exasperated vaccine COVID updates where he just was continually shitting on people for not getting vaccinated. So he is a Republican. He's pro-coal, and that sucks. But he's kind of funny sometimes. So I give that to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, in keeping with the theme, see, the conservative politicians, they're really upping their speech game. They're just getting better at the podium, as you saw with the dog's butthole here. Mm-hmm. And then also this new approach from an Iowa state congressman, right?
Yeah. When it comes to these gun-grabbing, freedom-hating, over-regulating, civil liberty violating tyrants, here's my message. Thank you.
If you're listening, it was the classic double bird. They blurred it out. They blurred the birds, but he just flipped everybody off and then left. So going full WWE with it.
This is not like, he's X-Pac right there, right? So the thing that kills me is All right, so there was a viral clip from Newsmax. I chose not to use it because it was otherwise boring. But Greg Kelly was going on a rant about how un-American it is for Pepsi to have Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre on the Super Bowl halftime show because when they were in their 20s, 35 years ago, they said "F the police." Now, this guy's also saying "fuck the government," and I just want conservatives to make a list over what parts of the government we're allowed to tell to fuck off and which ones we're not, because I'm getting very confused at this point. Is this guy unpatriotic? I don't know. Here's what I do know about him: he's a fucking dog murderer. Somebody dug this up when he was running for the state house. This guy told this story. So this guy was his neighbor. Posted this story. Sent this letter into the paper about he watched this guy hit a dog and not stop. So he chased him down, and when the guy got home around the corner, he said, "Hey, did you know you hit a dog?" And the guy basically was like, "It's no big deal." He said, "You should go back and talk to the young boy whose dog he killed." He told him to mind his own business and said, "Actually, I'm related to that kid. Don't worry about it." So I was like, "Wait, you killed your relative's fucking dog and didn't stop? That seems worse." Anyway, so the guy posted on Facebook about it, and then he went on. He started sending the guy threatening messages, telling him to take his Facebook post down, probably because he's planning to run for the House. Anyway, this guy's an all-around asshole. Fuck him, but not because he flipped off the government. I don't care about that. Just don't be killing dogs.
A lot of dog stuff going on in this episode too. Just like you said, that guy's an asshole. It's just dogs and assholes, man. That's what we got tonight.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's a wild story. That I know this is dark and fucked up, but it's just true. That happened to me when I was a kid, but with our cat. And it was our neighbor who was a drunken dipshit who I'm sure was hammered while driving. And I was standing in the yard, just standing right there. And he just fucking plowed it and just kept going. Never looked back. But that guy was like I said, drunken pillbilly maniac. This guy probably also is that, but he's a congressman. So, what are you going to do here? Splitting hairs. But yeah, let's, what do we got next? Oh, yes. Next honorable mention for Daily Dumbass is this guy's medical school for not having better stammering classes. This is DeSantis's Surgeon General appointee or nominee or whatever.
Nominee, yes. This is confirmation hearing. His name is Joseph Ladapo, I think is how you say it. And if he looks familiar to you, he was one of the group of frontline doctors who were the anti-vax group that with MDs who Trump would bring up to talk at the Capitol a lot. So
context of this clip is he was asked at a hearing in the state Congress in Florida, are vaccines effective in this pandemic? He rambles for 40 seconds without answering it, and then this happens.
That vaccines in fighting against a pandemic like COVID-19 are effective.
You recognize?
Thank you for your question, Senator. So, again, I would say that the question is a scientific one, and it's one that is answered with data. So, the question is informed by data on specific outcomes and specific therapies. So that's the scientific question.
Mr. Chair, just a couple more follow-ups. Just a yes or no. Do vaccines work in fighting against COVID-19? Yes or no?
You recognize?
Senator, I as a scientist, I am compelled to answer the scientific question, and I'd be happy to answer any specific scientific question that you have related to vaccines and COVID-19.
Scientifically, do the vaccines work against preventing COVID-19? Yes or no?
Recognized.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Senator. So, yes or no questions are not
all right.
That defined in science. So I will.
He's not going to answer the fucking question. These people are fucking infuriating, man. Like I know what he's trying to say. He's trying to say.
If you have a specific question about the vaccines, I would love to answer that. And she's like, okay, well, I do. Seems like it's among the most specific and simplistic questions one could ask you about these vaccines, in fact, which is, are they effective at fighting COVID-19 or not? And then it's just like, well, see, as a scientist, I can't, I've got to, it's got to be more data driven than just, I can't just, and then he does that for a minute and a half, and that's the whole deal.
What he wants to do is the typical anti-vax dance here to try to not sound anti-vax. He wants to be like, well, for 14-year-olds who have no other comorbidities, it actually doesn't improve their odds of survival that much because they're most likely. He wants to get into that bullshit, but she's just asking a broad question so he fucking can't. Right?
Yeah.
He's like, because the answer is in general, yes, everyone's better off with the vaccine. It's just like that is what it is. And nothing's perfect. I know people have breakthrough cases. They're all fine now. But yeah, whatever. Fuck this guy. Fuck Ron DeSantis. I hate bullshit more than I hate liars for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And yeah, fuck this guy for bullshitting. Yeah,
for sure. All right. Next up, we got anybody who thought Don Jr. wouldn't be ready for a zombie apocalypse. That's right. He's prepping already. We'll see it right here. See what he's got going on.
Guys, you've heard about the infamous chainsaw bayonet. It is real.
No, I haven't.
And we're going to put it
to
use.
So, okay.
Yeah, if you're listening to the podcast version, that's it's a submachine gun. I don't know what to get, MP15 or I don't know. It's a small one, and he's got a bayonet in the front that is an electric chainsaw. Now, I want you to think of the things that could be used for. Where it's actually useful. And I have been thinking all day and I haven't come up with one yet. So I guess you have a very small tree you need to shoot down before getting at a very short shootout with a very small number of people that can be killed with a small caliber bullet.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking like, you're clearing some brush and you get attacked by 50 or 60 wild hogs or whatever, which, as you recall, is something you got to worry about if you're Don Jr. especially.
You do not want to be fighting feral hogs with that little piece of shit. First of all,
no, I don't want to fight feral hogs. Period. And I don't. But I wouldn't take him against feral hogs, regardless of what he's packing. But yeah, no, I don't know. He's been wilding out lately. Not that that's all that weird, but he's just always going on there on the internet and just saying crazy shit. I don't know where he gets that from, but he seems seems a little cokey or something. Got a little bit of that going on. I don't know.
I figured out what you'd use that weapon for. Okay, I got you straight. What you do is it's if you need to saw down a single bonsai tree before having a shootout with 20 miniature Yakuza.
There you go.
That's what it's for.
All right. So let's see what else we get.
It does look cool, though, which I guess is the point. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah, but producer Matt pointed out it didn't sound, I guess because it's an electric chainsaw, it ain't got like the whole Leatherface sound or the Slim Shady sound that you want from a chainsaw, in my opinion. They need to do something about that. But anyway, that would be my Yelp review on the chainsaw bayonet. So his daddy had another rally in Texas. Went pretty good unless you are the governor of Texas, in which case it went like this.
Please welcome the governor of the great state of Texas.
Abbott sucks! Fire Abbott!
All right. Okay, Matt. But
he did know how to turn it around, though.
Yes,
he turned
it
around.
So I was going to say, he figured out the key. He cracked the code to how to get this Trump rally crowd behind him, and it's pretty straightforward. Let's see what he went with here, Matt.
Are you ready for Donald J. Trump? Donald J. Trump is ready for you.
How about them Cowboys?
Donald J. Trump loves the great state of Texas.
Just started USA chant, you know.
And Texans love President Donald J. Trump.
So he just literally starts repeating Trump's name over and over again because he figured out every time you say Donald Trump's name, they, they hear Trump, they go, woo, they hear Abbott, they go, boo. So he said, I'll just start saying his name instead. Seems to work out okay for him.
I'm off the top of my head. I read some reporter counted. I think he said Trump's name 60 times in 16 minutes. And to my ear, every single one of them had the Donald J in it, which is like seems.
I feel like he literally called him Donald J. Trump the first time, and they cheered as opposed to hissing for the first time since he was up there, and so he just went with that exact iteration of his name every time. You know, he found something that worked for him. So
the whole sorry, I was going to say the whole Trump rally was wild. I saw interviews with flat earthers. Don Jr. was out there signing his dad's book, I guess because his dad was too busy, although people were still kissing him. There were a couple speakers that said they were going to get Getter tattoos if enough people at the rally followed them on Getter, which is the Trump's the Nazi social media site. And then they were interrupted by a pre-recorded message from Donald Trump plugging his book. Then our homeboy, the big guy, came out and said he'd pardon everyone for January 6th, which is the news everyone's already seen. But this was probably my favorite part. Matt, roll this clip.
They'll have to change the name of the Detroit Tigers because they don't want to. It's unfair to use the word tiger. You know, they're changing the name of the Cleveland Indians. Can you believe that one? Can you believe that? They're changing the name of the Cleveland Indians. So I guess Tiger is probably at play also. Everything's at play. If you let these people get away with it, they'll destroy your whole country, okay? It's crazy.
This is not even worth making fun of, but like this is like the movement buying for Papaws. It's like buy Papaws for Papaws. It's like the dumbest fucking complaint. Cleveland, we made fun of this shit before, but sports teams change their name. It doesn't matter. It's not tearing your country apart to fucking rename the Cleveland Indians. Who gives a shit? Fuck you.
But also, it's like if he had said like the Kansas City Chiefs or Florida State Seminoles or something like that, I'd be like, okay, I get what he's doing here, and I guess I still do because he is who he is. But like Tigers, Tigers are speaking out about their own oppression now. I'm not saying we don't oppress tigers. You know, they're animals. We oppress the shit out of tigers, but I don't think they're like rallying to, have their name stop being appropriated. It's also not like tiger's not a slur for a striped big cat. That's just what it's called.
Yeah. So my wife lived in Singapore for a while, and she refuses to go to zoos anymore because whenever they visited a couple of zoos in Asia, and like those are basically open air zoos where you can walk up and pet the animals and take pictures of them. The reason you can do that is because they're heavily fucking sedated.
Right.
So yes, we do oppress tigers, which is they have actual problems, which is why they're not complaining about the name of the fucking Detroit baseball team.
Also, they're tigers and can't talk and stuff.
But there's that too. But if they could talk, they got bigger issues.
So this kind of leads into, I do want to watch the last one real quick because it's also related. It's this thing that's happening with them now where they're talking about how we are canceling everything, that they like, and also inventing shit that they don't like. And like the radical left is just out of control. We're trying to cancel tigers now. We turn the M&Ms not sexy anymore, Dr. Seuss, Potato Head, all that. Here is a new one right here from Candace Owens, new one to me anyway, about Minnie Mouse. We're coming for Minnie Mouse's skirt.
Yeah. Apparently.
This is why people don't take these people seriously. They're taking all of these things that nobody was offended by. It's like they have to get rid of them and destroy them because they're bored. They're absolutely bored. They're trying to destroy fabrics of our society and pretending that there's issues. So everybody looks over here. Look at Minnie Mouse. Don't look at inflation, Jesse. Look at Minnie Mouse. The world is going forward because you've got her in a pantsuit. Never mind that you can't get anything at the grocery store and you can't buy a piece of bacon unless you've got $30 in your pocket. At least we're addressing the real problem, which is Minnie Mouse.
So
that's right.
We've gone off on this before, I know, but like it's so wild to me how kind of close she is to being self-aware or to being correct about it. You know what I mean? Because it's like that's exactly how we feel. Yeah, we do have actual problems. Why are you all screaming about Minnie Mouse's pants? You know what I mean? Like you spend all this time on outrageous shit that's just made up and is totally irrelevant instead of the things that matter, which is their argument for why we shouldn't put pants on Minnie Mouse or something.
Yeah. And there's levels. The funniest joke I saw about this is somebody said they called Minnie Mouse in a pantsuit Minnie Rodham Mouse, which I thought was funny. But the idea that she has a lot of things going on there. One, the idea that Disney put pants on Minnie Mouse for any other reason than to sell more Minnie Mouse dolls. And
Yeah.
two, that it's part of an orchestrated campaign by the Biden White House, who I guess controls Disney.
Right.
To, I don't know. It doesn't fuck. I don't know. Anyway, also, I just bought bacon the other day. It didn't cost me $30 for bacon. So
Yeah, it's almost like they're completely full of shit. So on that note, we'll get into the first big topic today. It's related again. It's their newest big conspiracy theory that's happening. This
Yeah.
one's truly disturbing, Mark.
So yeah, critical horse theory is what we're going to talk about. So I ended up in a fun wormhole the other day trying to figure out what the fuck these people are talking about. Because Texas Monthly had this. I used to live in Texas, so I still follow a lot of Texas media. Texas Monthly had this article titled "Texas GOP Candidates' New Claim: School Cafeteria Tables Are Being Lowered for Furries." So this article, this woman's running for the Texas State House, just tweeted out this claim that the cafeteria table is being lowered for furries so they could, eat with their faces out of bowls because they're identifying as cats and dogs. Now, they called up the school. They called up her to see what the fuck she's talking about, and she'd respond for comment. And then they call up the school and be like, "Hey, is this true?" And they're like, "Our tables don't even lower."
Yeah, we couldn't do that if we wanted to do that.
So the reporter dug around trying to figure out what the fuck she's talking about. And she found this video from Michigan where a parent, this is just a Texas thing. A parent went to a school board meeting and said this. So I was like, okay, this is the origin. Play the video of that, Matt.
Agenda that is being pushed through our schools is just my opinion, but somewhat nefarious when it comes to some of the activities. So let's talk about furries. It was addressed by a child a couple months ago that they are put in an environment where there are kids that identify as a furry, a cat or a dog, whatever. And so yesterday I heard that at least one of our schools in our town has in one of the unisex bathrooms, a litter box for the kids that identify as cats. And I am really disturbed by that. And I will do some more investigation on that. I know it's going on nationwide. I know it is. It's part of the agenda that's being pushed. I don't even want to understand
what?
it. But I think that people
that's what I'm saying.
aware of it
They're on
because
to us,
I am
Mark.
really
The
upset
cat,
that
who's actually a child,
my
is out of the
child
bag.
is put in an environment like that.
They know what we're trying to do.
You know, I'm all for creativity and imagination, but when someone lives in a fantasy world and expects other people to go along with it, I have a problem with that. So I'm just putting that out there. I will investigate more.
Yeah, I bet she will.
So
do some serious investigative journalism here. This lady is.
So the furries are an interesting community, and they do exist. They're people that they have conventions where they dress up like animals and hang out together. But I don't know any personally, as far as I know. No judgment if any of you are furries. But so one of these reporters called up a furry leader of a furry group and talked to them, and it was like, well, furries don't identify as animals. It's like you dress up like Han Solo to go to Comic-Con. It's like you're a fan of Rocket Raccoon from Guardians of the Galaxy, so you dressed up as a raccoon. You do not identify as a raccoon. You're not going to live as a raccoon.
You just want to have sex while dressed as a raccoon.
Well, the sex part, my understanding is that the horny sex people, furries, are a smaller subset of them. It's not a sex thing for most of them. But regardless, you still are a person who shits like a person and not in a fucking litter box.
You don't demand a litter box. Also, like the idea that schools would accommodate that. Like, dude, my high school didn't even have doors on the stalls in the boys' bathroom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, you shit in front of the rest of them like a man. All right? Men shit in front of each other. What are you going to do? Hide behind the door like a pussy? You know, like that. Like, and of course, I went to Salina High School in Salina, Tennessee. But my point is, the idea that these schools, I'm assuming public schools, will be bending over backwards for these, like, very demanding furry children that they have, you know, so many of. It's wild to me that people hear this shit and believe it, because they clearly, the first lady in Texas, when she said she's just relaying what she was told by a concerned parent. It's like, okay, so you saw that on Facebook somewhere, and then you just state it as fact, which is how all of this shit works. But it's wild to me that they hear this and they're like, here they come. Here come the liberals turning kids into fucking sheep and stuff. Well, not dogs, literal sheep, wearing wool, fucking humping, doing all that stuff.
we talked before about the critical race theory stuff, about how like all this stuff is sort of so paranoid. It's like you've never actually talked to a teacher about what their day-to-day problems are like or what they're actually up to. Like the idea that they have the time to indoctrinate your children. But but these people, it's like, have you met an actual kid? Because you live your whole life in middle school and high school trying to avoid being
Right.
made fun of or having any sort of attention drawn to you. Like, you would not shit in a litter box in a public high school.
Even if you were dying to shit in a litter box, like again, I wouldn't even hardly shit at school. I don't know if you heard, but there weren't no doors on the stalls. So like, you fucking, that too, 100%. I'm sure there's, there's probably some kids in high school out there really into that furry shit. And again, that's fine, but they're not going to be just parading that around, making demands that the school, go out of their way to accommodate them for the reasons you just said. It's like, that ain't how I remember high school working.
Nobody in my high school showered after gym because nobody wanted to be seen with their pants off in front of their. Nobody wants to be made fun of. The idea they're going to drop trowel and fucking squat like a kid.
And there's like a fox tail sticking out of your butthole or something, and you're just gonna roll with that as a high school kid. Yeah, I don't know, but I don't know. We're old, Mark. Hell, that's what I'm saying. They hear these things and they're like, "That's of course." Like they hear this and they're like, "Of course they are." Of course, that's what the radical left, that's what they've done to these kids. Won't somebody please think of the children? And it's just wild to me, being the type of person to hear something so outrageous like that and just think to yourself, I knew it. You know what I mean? It's wild.
They hear these stories on the internet, automatically believe them, and then assume it's the kids who are in a mental health crisis.
Right.
So I thought, the Michigan thing is the origin of this story. Nope. It's not. It's neither the origin nor the end of it. Because buckle up. This is a story from late last summer from Meade County, Kentucky, which is a population of 28,000 southwest of Louisville. Headline: Kentucky school district students are dressing and acting like cats.
Do they know that that's actually just a cat? Like they know that's not.
Yes.
That's not a child with a cat suit on. That's just a cat. See, it seems they've been misled to me, Mark. That's okay. So that's what's happened here. There's just some cats in the school, and they're like, "Oh fuck, that liberal kid's dressed up like a cat." Well, now I get it. Okay.
Well, there's a few funny things about that story, including that picture, because the source for this story is one concerned grandparent who said the kids were passing around pictures of kids dressed like cats. Now, if they had pictures of people dressed like cats, where's the fucking picture, lady? Where is the picture? Because it's not in the news story. Also, fuck that news website in Kentucky. So here's this woman. This woman's so funny. This is this concerned grandmother who asked to remain anonymous. I don't even know if she fucking exists. Apparently, from what I understand, they're called furries, she said. They identify with animals. These people will hiss at you or scratch you if they don't like something you're doing, which is honestly fucking hilarious. Now, here's the extra funny thing to this. This story appears to actually have some truth to it because they called up the superintendent, and this is where it's getting really funny. He said, a petition isn't needed. The costumes violate the school dress code. Quote, a small number of Meade County high school students have violated the dress code policy during the early part of the school year. They've been addressed consistently, and the dress code policy will continue to be implemented with fidelity. And then he told the reporter to fuck off. But so some kids dressed. Here's what I got to tell you a quick story, Trey. So my buddy John, one of my best friends in high school, he decided to troll the teachers and see how crazy he had to act to be sent to counseling. So he started off wearing paper bag shoes to school. We worked at a grocery store together. He wore paper bag shoes to school. That didn't work. They're just like, oh, John's being weird again. So he had his own Spanish book because his parents both taught in a school district, and his
parents were teachers in the school where he's doing this shit.
His mom was a guidance counselor at the middle school, so he knew I think it's one of the reasons he's trying to get sent to the guidance counselor.
Yeah,
knowing his mom who knew he was acting. So he burned his Spanish book and pretended to read it in class, which is charred ash, and still nothing. So then he found a dead lizard and he stapled it in the Spanish book. He named it Pepe and would drag it around on a leash, like talking to it like it was alive in his burned Spanish book and his paper bag shoes. They finally called him in the office to be like, John, we know you're not crazy. What the fuck are you doing? He's like, so he quit. Anyway, these kids are trolling and they've set off a national moral panic. And here's how national.
Maybe, but I've seen, I don't know what the kids are out here doing, Mark, but I know that there's like little like cat ear things that like you can, and it ain't full on furry shit. It's like an accessory that has cat ears, maybe has LED lights on it or something or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's possible that even if a couple girls saw some and thought they were cool and wore cat ears
Mm-hmm.
to school, and that's it, that
Mm-hmm.
you still could end up in this scenario where it's like an epidemic of cats or kids believing they're cats now.
Yeah, my wife's easy quickie DIY Halloween costume is a pair of cat ears on like a hairband, and then a
Right.
T-shirt with this leopard print that says "This is a cat costume." This might probably that level of cat outfit, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
this is from that first Texas. This is nationwide. Okay, this is what we discovered. Okay, so that first Texas Monthly story included this little tidbit. In October, an Idaho talk radio station ran a report that said students who claim to be furries were being excused from their homework because, quote, paws and hooves can't grip a pencil and struggle with the keyboard, end quote. So this should
Now,
be
that's
sign number
trolling
one.
shit.
Yes.
If that one has any truth at all, that's 100% some your buddy John stuff right there.
Yes. This
and
feels
it's
like
also pretty fucking funny in my opinion.
Yeah.
If they're doing that, it's like, well, I identify as a horse, and horses have hooves, so I can't possibly take the SATs or whatever.
Exactly. This feels like a TikTok challenge that's fucking
Yeah.
confused the shit out of parents.
Yeah.
So, so anyway, somebody called the superintendent up and said, he said, nobody's been disruptive during class, and quote, he added that such a claim would not exempt a student from homework. Because of course it fucking wouldn't. So anyway, this kid's plan to troll didn't even work. There was another report from Iowa that school boards are considering placing litter boxes in the bathrooms. In Canada, our good friends in Canada are back again. Public school director took to the media to connect similar rumors in his community to a backlash around accommodations that his school recreated for transgender students. And there we are back to what this is actually about. So anyway.
We're probably going to use this to ban Animal Farm sometime soon,
Yeah.
Add it to the list of books you can't have because of furry panic or whatever.
Yeah, all the Richard Scary books got to go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this fucking the kids are all right, man. I'm a big fan of these kids. These parents are dipshits.
Yeah,
all
this
right.
shit is wild. Okay, I wonder what
Let's
it'll
do our
bring
not
next
fun
week.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, man. If people are having too much fun, they're like, oh, they'll fix it soon. They'll get to something suitably. Don't worry, we know this show is going to be something upsetting around the corner. Yeah, cops in Alabama, Mark, small town Alabama, up to some bullshit.
Yeah, so this story from some intrepid local reporters in Alabama went national. Let's start with this scene-setting clip from CNN, which picked up the story. If you got it.
The local media outlet AL.com, between 2018 and 2020, under Brookside Police Chief Mike Jones, income from fees and forfeitures increased by 640%. The outlet says the money amounts to half of the town's total income, or roughly $1.2 million.
All right, so this is a town of 1,200 people, just north of about half an hour outside of Birmingham. They reported just 55 serious crimes to the state in an 8-year period. None of them were murders or rapes, but still, this town when their police chief got hired, he was the only cop in the town. They now have 14. This town has 6 miles total of roads and 1.5 miles of jurisdiction on Interstate 22. Despite that, they've made more misdemeanor arrests than it has residents in 2020, and went from towing 50 vehicles in 2018 to 789 in 2020, each carrying fines. That was a 1,500% increase in fines, 1.7 tows for every household in town. They started seizing cars during traffic stops, which doubled from 2018 to 2019. In 2020, they came close to $610,000 in revenue, as 49% of the entire town skyrocketing revenue. So this guy is really on one. By the way, the national average for the ratio of cops in the country is about 1 cop per every 600 residents. So that town now has 14 for 1,200. So that's a cop. That's about 6 times the cop to person ratio.
So my town was like that, but I don't know. It never occurred to me that it might be some shit like this. I mean, I was just a kid and we just hated how many goddamn cops we had. But like Salina's around 1,000 residents, and I don't know exactly, but between like county and city cops, when I lived there, I mean, I guarantee you it was at least 10 or 11. And there also was a highway patrol office in Salina, so there were state troopers. We barely had highways, dude. There was no interstate or nothing like that. But it was a lake town, so in the summer there were tourists and stuff. And I don't know, looking back, maybe they were pulling some shit like this too, fucking with the tourists a lot or something like that. Maybe it was it just always, we were just like, this is horse shit. Why is there so many goddamn cops? But like, I never considered what the actual reason was. But my town was kind of like that too. So might have been some shit like this. I don't know.
I'll show you some reasons of what they did with the money in a second, but some other stuff besides hiring a bunch of cops. But about that personnel ratio, this sheriff's. I want to give this guy some credit because he gets some pretty fire quotes in this article because he disapproves this policy. I want to make that clear before we read this quote because it sounds like he's excited about the idea. What the sheriff said was, "I could take over the whole country with numbers like that." Which he's fucking right. You could occupy a country with a 100-to-1 troop to occupied people ratio. So anyway, getting back to how they'd spend that money. Here's a clip from CNN about some shit they did. Remember, a town of 1,200 people. I need to tell you this for frame of reference. The only corporate tax base in this entire town is a single Dollar General.
Yeah,
That's the only. Yeah.
Again, it's just like my hometown. They said there's no traffic lights, there's no retail or anything other than a Dollar General. Again, it literally sounds exactly like Salina, where I'm from.
Yeah. One Dollar General in this town, 1,200 people, and this is what they did with this money.
Has a lot of cops to police it. Brookside is only about 3 miles long and has just over 1,200 residents. But the police here, they feel the need for at least 3 SWAT vehicles. Not only that, they also have a tank, which looks brand new.
What the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
That is so audacious, man. Like, I mean, of course it ended up on CNN. Like, that is wild. What the hell are they doing with that tank?
I'm not trying to pick on Alabama here, but like they could spend that money on schools. You look at nationwide rankings for test scores and stuff. They could probably there are places you could really use that money. So the town with no traffic lights collected $500 in fines and forfeitures in 2020 for every man, woman, and child.
Yeah, but these are it's mostly, isn't it mostly like out of town people driving through, because an interstate goes through or by this town, right? And I remember like reading the article and stuff. It's like they're mostly harassing people that are coming through, or like all that is not just coming from the residents. Like we talk about per capita and stuff. They're harassing outsiders a lot.
Well, they don't, unless you have out-of-state license plates, they don't know. And plus you have a year to change your license plates when you move. So they're just harassing fucking everyone regardless. And a bunch of lawsuits filed against them in complaints say that they're pulling over people miles outside of town. They're just hunting infractions that do and don't exist. And by the way, when I say they don't exist, they interviewed a ton of people in this article whose charges eventually got dropped when they had the money to fight them. But most people don't have the money to fight them, which is the fucking problem and the point. It's just like they arrested a passenger in a car for not having her ID with her, which is not remotely a crime, right? Eventually, his charges got dismissed when she went to court and raised her hand and said, "I didn't commit a crime." Like, oh yeah, you're right. We looked it up and it's not a crime. One of the things they ticketed about 500 people for was just driving in the left lane, right? Not speeding, not blocking traffic, just existing in the left lane. Now, Alabama did pass, and this kind of hits for me because I don't like people to slow down traffic by driving in the left lane. They did pass an anti-road rage bill in the middle of that stretch where they pulled over all those people, making it illegal to block the left lane for more than a mile and a half. But the cops in court, when questioned, openly admitted they didn't follow them that far. So they did have no idea if they even broke the fucking law. Anyway, another way you know they're doing something fucked up is they in the police reports they use code names. This one police report, they call themselves Agent JS and Agent AR. Now, hopefully those are initials and not AR short for AR-15, but I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
But anyway, you cannot
the agent shit too. Like it's not officer or deputy or whatever. It's agent, because that's cooler.
Agent.
Mark. That's way more bad. Agents are cooler than deputies. Everybody knows that. So, need an agent code name.
I cannot okay. So one of the things here we talked about before, we used to be a reporter, and sometimes people will complain about the stuff that's in a newspaper, saying, "Well, why do you have this person's address? Why do you say where they live? Why do you say there's so many details of the crime?" Those come from arrest warrant affidavits and search warrant affidavits, which are documents the government has to file to make its case to the public, letting them know why they're using state authority to crush a person, right? Mm-hmm. You can't just arrest people and put a fake name on a fucking government document. You have to say who you are and what you're accusing them of. If you're too chicken shit to do that, go do another job. Go be the security guard of that Dollar General. Yeah, it's only got one of them, but they're being shoplifted all to hell. But God, this story drives me crazy. Here's another element of this. What they were doing to squash dissent, besides having a fucking tank and a count of 1,200 people, was they were scrolling social media and threatening people with arrest who complained about the cops on Facebook. So this woman posted on Facebook. She's in the other article, the first article too. But she said what she did was she flashed her lights at someone to let them know they were approaching a speed trap. Some cops saw her. They charged at her in an unmarked SUV. Came bounding out of an unmarked clothes. They couldn't even tell she was a cop. Took her phone away from her, destroyed it, threatened to arrest her, and they did ticket her when she complained about it on Facebook. They said her Facebook posts were threats. She had incited a riot and slandered the Brookside Police Department in her Facebook posts. And this cop told her that, quote, his police chief was mad. You don't get to arrest people because you're fucking mad.
Nope. Not supposed to work. It's fun. They've got so many cops that some of them are patrolling Facebook, not just the street. It's like they're fucking cops and over eating a donut, talking shit on Facebook. It's like, what are you doing? I'm on patrol. I got the Facebook beat today, making sure to squash this dissent and intimidate the citizens.
Look, here's a small tip to the cops out there. The whole reason you scroll social media at work is to fucking not do work. Stop harassing people on Facebook because you think it's part of your job. Anyway,
but it ain't just a job, Mark. It's a passion. It's a way of life, buddy.
Yeah,
it's what you don't understand about it. It's deeper than that.
So I brought up the problems with that, the underfunding of schools and stuff all over the South, but especially now, Alabama's one of the worst. And so I thought this part of the story was fairly poignant. Here's another quote from that CNN story where they interviewed this woman who's an activist.
Nelson, with the social justice nonprofit Alabama Appleseed, says Alabama doesn't generate enough revenue from taxation, so public policy incentivizes cities and counties to get that revenue another way.
And the path of least resistance is very often ticketing people for low-level offenses.
Brookside residents wonder if these old tactics will continue under a new chief. Nelson, with the social justice nonprofit Alabama Appleseed.
Well,
yeah,
there you have it.
Corporations and rich people don't want to pay taxes, so cops don't make enough money. So what they do is they steal it from other people whose other services are underfunded. That's basically just the story. Because they said
Ain't that America?
Yeah, the fees are making some quick back of the envelope math here. Those fees are making up $600,000 of the city's $1.2 million budget, right? Let's say, like you said, they're probably ticketing a bunch of out of town people too. Let's say 300,000 of that comes from people in town. Let's say only half. 1,200 people live there. So was that close to $3,000 a person, man, woman, and child coming out of their pockets to buy cops' fucking tanks? This is not a rich city. These are people going dead broke to buy the cops' toys.
Yeah.
And
but Mark, think about how cool that tank looks in the homecoming parade. When they put a nice float on it, a bulldog or whatever the mascot is, roll it down the town square. That's gonna be pretty sweet. We didn't have a tank in our homecoming parade, and this town does. So you should think about that.
Maybe that's how we sell this is like to people about reordering our priorities to things that make sense. Is like if we sold the tank, we could buy the high school football team's pads.
Right.
Yeah. And then we win more football games. The Roll Tide, baby. Come on, man. It's Alabama.
Alabama. That's right. Everything comes back to football.
Anyway, after the story came out last week, the police chief suddenly resigned. They won't say why because they say it's a personnel matter. I imagine they're trying to squash some of the heat from this because Lieutenant Governor has come out and requested an audit of Brooksdale's town and police force, and lawmakers across party lines have called for bills to help curb small town policing for profit on Alabama interstates. So maybe some good could come of this fucking horse shit. But this is 6 years after Ferguson. I don't know if you remember the federal crackdown on Ferguson after the murder there. And people dug into their finances, showed they were doing the same kind of shit, arresting everybody so they could buy themselves toys and give themselves raises. And the federal government cracked down on Ferguson, which led to a nationwide revolt of cops who said they weren't going to arrest anybody if they weren't allowed to arrest anybody they want. So here we go again. Circle of time is a flat circle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Matt, you can start throwing up some comments and stuff as you see them. I would like to remind everybody, look at this. I'm remembering on my own. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. Hit the like, leave if you're on the audio version, leave us a 5-star review, all that good shit. We really appreciate it. It helps us out. Algorithms and whatnot, computer stuff. Y'all know how it is. I don't. But anyway, yeah, hit the like button. Be awful cool of you. And Mark, you were gonna say something about the Supreme Court deal, or we're waiting on this?
Yeah, we're waiting on comments. So the argument about the Supreme Court qualifications and Biden's hypothetical nominee who's going to be a black woman. I read the woman's most likely nominee's name. I can't remember off the top of my head.
It's like could not. I can't remember it either.
I don't want to try it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's sort of beside the point. I haven't read much about her background, but Amy Coney Barrett had never tried a case, had never been a judge for 2017. She's in the court. Because let's circle back here. There are no constitutional requirements to be a Supreme Court justice. The idea that you have to be some sort of genius to sit on the Supreme Court. And by the way, just because this one person is a black woman, she could absolutely be a genius. I'm tired of even fucking having that discussion about like whether they can't be qualified if you set some parameters. So this law blog named Lawyers, Guns, and Money broke down the math of it. And basically, they were making the argument that being a Supreme Court justice is a really easy fucking job, which it really is. You don't have to try cases. You go to work for 6 months a year, 2 days a week. Your clerks do all your writing. You do have to know some stuff about the law, but when they say qualifications, what they want are people who are overqualified. See, to the point, they in a specific way, they see everything in these sort of abstractions that are hypothetical and not what they're doing to people's lives on the ground. I would much prefer a regular person with a community college degree or a bachelor's degree and no legal training whatsoever who would sit up there and hear some fucked up shit that a corporation or a cop did and be like, man, that's fucked up. We got to stop that.
Yeah.
As opposed to somebody being like, well, actually, according to the case of 1824, you need to have the test for this case. Is, I don't fucking care. Stop the fucked up shit and let yeah. Anyway, they want us to think they're super qualified genius wizards. So when they do something counterintuitive that ruins their lives, we just assume they must have the credibility to do it. It's part of building the mystique for the institution. I think it's bullshit. If they suck, they suck. If they're good, they're good. That's the end of it. Yeah.
Right on. Linda Allwell Medina from Facebook says DeSantis is refusing to denounce the Nazis that were protesting in Orlando this weekend. Well, good people on both sides, Linda. That's we all heard that. No, I don't. But DeSantis, that's kind of par for the course for him, I feel like.
Well, he's in a bind because a lot of conservatives in Florida are Jewish. So a bunch of Nazis protested in Orlando, and he was asked about it, and he instead said, "I'm not falling into this political trap where Democrats are trying to play games." That was essentially the crux of it. Meanwhile, his director of
political trap of denouncing Nazis. You know what I mean? It's like, you're not going to get me with that old chestnut. I know better than to denounce Nazis. I'm a conservative.
Anyway, his
his
director of communications essentially said it was a false flag operations by liberals to trap DeSantis into be in this really rock and a hard place spot where he has to either denounce Nazis or look like one.
Right.
Doesn't seem like that big of a trap to me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Seems like a pretty straightforward decision. False flags. Again, dude, we're really excelling at false flags recently. Between all these false flags and turning all these kids into fucking potbelly pigs and stuff, like, I don't know how any of us have time to do anything else, Well, that liberal agenda really going strong lately.
Any thoughts on Joe Rogan? My main thought is we as a culture get caught up in thinking about specific people way too much. Here's a big meta takeaway. The reason people yell at Spotify over this shit like this is because the government's completely non-responsive. I'm not saying the government should do anything about Joe Rogan. I'm saying we take all our frustrations out of private companies because your vote changes nothing. Politicians don't do anything when you tell them to, but you can take $5 a month away from Spotify. That's all you can do. So that's why people take it out on Spotify. I don't listen to him. I haven't in years. But I know.
I feel like, and I don't know, maybe this isn't the point or whatever, but even if Spotify got rid of him, he'd probably arguably it'd be hitting even harder. That was Tracy Martinson who said that. Suzanne Bryant says Joe Rogan who? So what I mean is he was huge before Spotify. He's limited somewhat to Spotify now. If he got kicked off by Spotify, it's not really going to affect him or anything he does. And I don't think that he should be censored by I don't think he should be like completely shut down by the fucking government or whatever, because we got free speech and shit. So I don't really like. I don't see,
that's right.
I don't see too much of a point in it. I guess
censorship's the wrong way to frame it to me, because I think what the question people are asking, especially artists who we talked last week about this a little bit, who are getting fucked by Spotify, because artists get nothing from Spotify.
Right.
It's like 0.001 cents per stream, and even of that, most of it goes to the record company. So it's like, why are you paying Joe Rogan $100 million and not paying musicians anything? Is really because they're paying. They're not. No one's asked them to take Joe Rogan off. It's more like a question: what was the business decision to pay him $100 million? Now, I don't pocket what here. I don't know. It's tough to wait. Like, all this is like, you get into abstractions and stuff. I think people shouldn't do vaccine misinformation. Rogan's a mixed bag, because he shouldn't be doing COVID disinformation, but also nobody else with that big of an audience is bringing on somebody to talk about the prison industrial complex for 3 hours, or Palestinian oppression for 3 hours.
I used to, before COVID-19, I was a pretty big, or I would have been, if anybody ever asked me about it, which fewer people were doing at the time, a pretty big apologist for Rogan's podcast, because I thought a lot of that at the time, that gateway to the alt-right stuff he was being accused of, wasn't really fair, because he would fucking have Bernie on and have a really great interview or whatever. And his defense was like, I bring on people for all these different points of view and whatnot. I mean, it felt to me like he genuinely did. And also, I was like, if you listen to that fucking Alex Jones interview with Joe Rogan and your takeaway is like, oh man, this Alex Jones dude's making a lot of good points, then you were already a lost cause, because the dude is a fucking lunatic as far as I'm concerned. So I used to kind of defend him, but COVID-19, as it has to so many people in this country, has just made it way I'm not going to do any of that now with all this COVID-19 shit, because he's clearly drawn a line in the sand at this point. It feels like, it's not like it used to be with him, and it's, it is harmful and everything, and people have a good point, and I just don't know. Like I said, COVID made a lot of people crazy. I guess Joe Rogan's one of them.
I think COVID's
basically his true colors, whatever.
I think COVID. I was trying to think of a way to frame this earlier, but I like crazy people in my life. I enjoy iconoclasts and contrarians. I am myself one in certain times, but in a time like a pandemic that requires collective action from virtually everybody to bring it to an end, they're not particularly helpful, which is why people get extra mad at them. In typical times, I love listening to people that I disagree with. I can't tell you the number of my favorite rappers who are absolutely conspiracy theorists. I got a buddy who doesn't believe in dinosaurs. He's really fun to argue with. But right now, it feels like you shouldn't be peddling COVID disinformation, even in the just asking questions sort of thing.
That is pretty much how I feel about it too. Yes, because I also used to find that shit mostly entertaining, but it just it just has a different context and a different kind of feel now, and it ain't really the same thing anymore. So no, I'm with you on that. So can this die? If I'm saying that right from YouTube, says, guys, Ukraine. Was that last week we talked about Ukraine?
Yeah,
the week before.
We talked for a while about Ukraine last week. I don't have any
that we're dumb about it. It just feels like if Russia wants to do some shit to Ukraine, they're probably just going to, and no one else will do anything about it. It's probably what's going to happen.
It's going to be, if an invasion happens, it's going to be one, hell for the Ukrainian civilians, and two, not pleasant for the Russian army. I was reading a thing today about how if they think Russia's going to be a cakewalk, Ukraine's going to be a cakewalk, what's the Crimea or Afghanistan, was that it's not going to, Afghanistan was a cakewalk at first, resistance built up later. But the idea that Russia, we just gave Ukraine a bunch of surface to air missiles, Poland gave them a bunch of artillery. They're going to be in the fight, and it's not going to be pleasant to them. They're not going to walk into Kiev and
they ain't going to make it easy for them for sure. But it's just a really shitty situation all the way around. Obviously, wish Russia would chill out, but I don't know. They don't seem to be too into that. Old Putin, not the most chill guy.
If there's a lesson here, it's that countries might want to think about allowing sociopathic megalomaniacs to take power. They might send your kids to war for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, listen, thank you all for watching. Again, you go to wellreadcomedy.com for tickets and whatnot. If you want to see me live, you can go to weeklyskews.com, get you a shirt. And we got some things in the works over here at the Skews. We'll let y'all know about before long. We're we're looking forward to the future here. We hope you all are as well. We will see you next time right here.